Hello, my dear adventurers. Welcome back to another evening of shared stories. Tonight, we are not journeying out into the far and sometimes dark corners of the broader wizarding world. We will not be walking the polished, underground halls of the ministry or exploring the magical schools of distant lands. Tonight, we are coming home. We are returning to the place where it all began. We are going to explore the lore, the history, and the deep, sleeping magic of the heart of the castle itself, Hogwarts. So, just as you did last time, put aside any transfiguration homework you might have been working on. Grab your favorite blanket, curl up in your common room armchair, and let's journey back 1,000 years to the very beginning. Imagine the world over 1,000 years ago. Picture the wild and untamed landscape of the Scottish Highlands, a place of misty glens and deep, dark lochs and mountains that seem to scratch the belly of the clouds. It is the 10th century, and it is a dark and dangerous time to be a magical person. The great and terrible witch trials that would later grip Europe and America are in their infancy. Muggles, the non-magical folk, are growing more and more fearful of the magic they see but cannot understand. And what they fear, they hunt. There is no ministry of magic to protect the wizarding community. There is no international statute of secrecy to provide the safety of hiding. Magic is practiced, but it is practiced in secret and in fear. For a young witch or wizard, a child, there is no safe place to learn. There is no sanctuary. They are alone and they are hunted. Into this fearful and chaotic world came 4 of the greatest and most powerful and most brilliant witches and wizards of the age. They saw the fear and the chaos, and they shared a single, grand, and revolutionary vision. They would build a fortress, a sanctuary, a place where young magical folk could be brought and taught and protected, a place they could call home. They were Godric Gryffindor, Helga Hufflepuff, Rowena Ravenclaw, and Salazar Slytherin. First, there was Godric Gryffindor. He was a brave and noble and high-spirited man, described as coming from the wild moor. He was a warrior, a duelist of unmatched skill, and he possessed a fierce and lion-hearted courage. But his bravery was not reckless. It was guided by a deep and profound sense of honor and of chivalry. He believed that the most important virtues were courage, daring, and a strength of character that would lead one to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. He believed that any child who showed that spark of bravery, regardless of their background, deserved a place in their school. Then there was Helga Hufflepuff. She came from the Broad Valley, a place of warmth and of abundance. She was, perhaps, the kindest and most empathetic and most generous of the 4. She was a brilliant witch, particularly skilled in food-related charms, and it is her legacy that we can still feel today in the warm and welcoming and delicious-smelling kitchens of the castle. Her magic was the magic of home, of comfort, and of loyalty. She did not seek out the brave, or the clever, or the ambitious. She valued loyalty and hard work and patience and fairness. She famously said, in a disagreement with the other founders, "I'll teach the lot and treat them just the same." She was not looking for glory. She was looking to build a home, a safe and nurturing place where every student would be valued simply for who they was. Beside them stood Rowena Ravenclaw, a witch of breathtaking intelligence and creativity. She was from the Lonely Glen, and it is said that her beauty and her wisdom were almost intimidating. She was the great architect of the group, the mind that designed the magical and ever-changing floor plan of Hogwarts Castle. She valued wit and learning and a wisdom that went beyond just memorizing facts. She believed that the sharpest minds, the most curious souls, the students who were willing to learn and to question, were the ones who should be given the deepest knowledge. She sought to teach the cleverest and to share her profound wisdom with them. And finally, there was Salazar Slytherin. He was from the Fen, the low and marshy and misty wetlands. He was, like the others, an incredibly powerful and brilliant wizard. He was cunning and resourceful and deeply ambitious. He was a master of the dark arts, and he was a Parselmouth, a wizard with the rare and often misunderstood ability to speak to snakes. He valued ambition and resourcefulness and a certain cunning, a willingness to bend the rules to achieve one's goals. And he valued blood purity. These four, so different in their ideals and in their personalities, were united for a time by their single shared vision. They would build their school. They chose their location in the most remote and inaccessible part of the Scottish Highlands. And there, using magic so powerful that we can barely comprehend it today, they built the castle, Hogwarts. They did not just build it, they breathed life into it. They poured their own magic into the very stones and the mortar. They are the reason the staircases move, and the trick steps appear, and the rooms shift and change. They made the castle a living, magical entity, a fortress that could protect and nurture its students. And they cast the most powerful concealment charms imaginable. They made the castle unplottable so that it could never be found on any Muggle map. And they cast the powerful Muggle-repelling charms that protect it to this day. Charms that make any non-magical person who stumbles upon its location see only a dark and crumbling and dangerous old ruin with signs warning them to stay away. For a time, it was a golden age. The four founders worked together in harmony. Each of them took students who seemed to embody their own most cherished virtues. And the school, the first and greatest and safest school of magic in the world, flourished. But as you may know, this peace was not to last. A shadow began to grow, a deep and bitter disagreement that would, in the end, break their perfect fellowship. Salazar Slytherin, with his pride and his ambition, grew distrustful. He looked at the Muggle world, at their growing fear and their persecution of magic, and he came to a dark conclusion. He believed that Muggle-born students, witches and wizards born to non-magical parents, could not be trusted. He believed that they were a weakness, a contamination of the magical world. He argued that magic should be kept pure, and that only students from long and unbroken and magical bloodlines should be allowed to learn the secrets of Hogwarts. The other three founders were horrified. This bigotry, this hatred, went against the very core of their beliefs. Godric Gryffindor, in particular, was a fierce and vocal champion of Muggleborns. He and Slytherins had, it is said, once been the closest of friends. But this dark and intolerant philosophy tore them apart. Their arguments became bitter and heated. Helga Hufflepuff, whose entire philosophy was built on the idea of accepting everyone, of teaching the lot, was heartbroken by this deep and unbridgeable rift. And Rowena Ravenclaw, who valued intelligence and wisdom, could not stand by this prejudice. She knew that a sharp and curious mind could be born to any parentage. The arguments grew more and more violent until, finally, Salazar Slytherin could no longer stay in a castle or with founders who would not follow his dark and intolerant path. And so he left. He abandoned the castle he had helped to build. He turned his back on the other founders. His great and powerful friendship with Godric Gryffindor broken forever. He walked away from Hogwarts, but Slytherin, in his great and terrible cunning, did not leave without a final and parting word, a dark and terrible secret. Before he left, he built a hidden chamber, a place unknown to the other founders, a place he sealed so that only his own true heir, a fellow Parselmouth, could one day open it. And inside this hidden chamber, he left a monster, a basilisk, a giant and deadly serpent. His final and parting curse upon the school was that one day his heir would return and would use this monster to purge the school of all those he deemed unworthy, all those born to Muggles. It was a dark and terrible and lonely shadow left on their bright and hopeful and beautiful new world. And that shadow, the shadow of the Chamber of Secrets, would lie sleeping and waiting deep beneath the castle for 1,000 years. But that is a story for a little later in our journey. For now, just picture the castle in its earliest days, a beacon of light and of hope, built by 4 of the greatest magical minds in history. Their legacy, their virtues, their flaws, all soaked into the very stones. They are the reason the castle is divided into its 4 great houses. They are the reason for the loyalty of Hufflepuff, the bravery of Gryffindor, the wisdom of Ravenclaw, and the ambition of Slytherin. Their story is the foundation of Hogwarts, a story of great and magical friendship, and of deep and human and tragic sadness. But for now, it is time to rest. Let the thought of that ancient and magical castle, a safe and welcoming fortress, be your sanctuary tonight. There is more to explore, so much more. The magical and moving staircases, the ghosts, the common rooms, the secrets hidden in the very walls. But that is for another time. For now, it is time to sleep. So, stay safe and sweet dreams. The four founders, with their grand and clashing and beautiful ideals, did not just build a school. They poured their own powerful and ancient magic into the very foundations. They wove enchantments into the mortar, and they breathed a kind of life into its very walls. And it is this magic, this ancient and sleeping consciousness, that makes the castle what it is. Hogwarts is alive. It is a fact that every new student learns, often in a very confusing and sometimes amusing way within their first week. The castle does not obey the normal and predictable rules of the Muggle world. It is a place of magic, and it is, above all, a place of change. The most famous and most obvious sign of this, of course, is the grand staircase. Picture it in your mind, a vast and soaring and open space, a beautiful and dizzying and wondrous labyrinth of moving staircases, crisscrossing each other in a graceful and impossible and ever-shifting ballet. When a first year stands at the bottom, they look up at 100 different staircases, all leading to different and distant landings. They are made of a dark and polished and ancient stone, their steps worn smooth by the footsteps of 1,000,000 students. And as you watch, a staircase on the far left, which a moment ago led up to the 3rd floor, will suddenly, and with a low and gentle and grinding groan, begin to move. It will swing in a slow and graceful and majestic arc through the open air, and it will come to rest at a completely different doorway, on a completely different floor. For a new student, it is a source of constant and bewildering confusion. You will be walking up to your charms class, following a friend, and you will pause for just a moment to look at a portrait. And in that moment, the staircase you are on will give a soft and gentle lurch, and it will begin its slow and steady journey to a different part of the castle, leaving your friend on the landing above, waving a helpless and amused goodbye. The castle seems to have a mind and a sense of humor all its own. It enjoys the confusion. It loves the surprise. And it is not just the staircases. Oh no, the castle has other, more subtle ways of playing with its inhabitants. There are the trick steps. You will be walking down a familiar and ordinary looking corridor, and you will suddenly, and without warning, find your foot sinking, as if the solid stone step has turned to soft and squishy mud. It is always a shock. The step will seem to grab your ankle for just a moment, a polite but firm and magical gotcha before letting you go. It is a rite of passage, a gentle and magical prank played by the castle itself. And then there are the doors. You will walk down a corridor on a Monday, and you will know with absolute certainty that there is a large and oaken door on your right, a door that leads to a small and disused and dusty classroom. But on Tuesday, when you walk down that same corridor, the door will be gone. There will be nothing but a blank and solid and unremarkable stretch of stone wall. And on Wednesday, the door may be back, but it may be half its original size, or it may be painted a bright and cheerful and unaccountable shade of blue. The castle is a place of constant and gentle and magical change. It is not a static and dead and predictable building of stone. It is a living and breathing and magical home. And like any living thing, it has a deep and powerful instinct for self-preservation. It has a will to protect itself and to protect the students who live within its walls. The founders did not just build a school, they built a fortress. Its first and most obvious defense is its location. It is hidden in the most remote and wild and beautiful part of the Scottish Highlands, a place of deep and misty lochs and of wild and lonely and purple-heathered moors and of mountains that are veiled in clouds and in shadow. It is a place that muggles, the non-magical folk, would not simply stumble upon. It is a place of ancient and natural and wild magic, but its location is only the first and the simplest of its defenses. The true and powerful and brilliant protections are the spells woven into its very being. First, and most importantly, the castle is unplottable. It is a strange and magical and wonderful word. Unplottable. It means that you cannot put it on a map. If you were to take a Muggle map, or even a magical one, of the Scottish Highlands, there would be a large and blank and empty space where Hogwarts should be. It is not just hidden. It is magically removed from the very concept of maps. You cannot find it with a compass, or with a map, or with any of the clever and technological devices that Muggles use to navigate their world. It simply does not exist to the outside world. But the greatest, and perhaps the kindest, of its defenses is the powerful and ancient and Muggle-repelling charm that is cast over the entire sprawling grounds. To you, to a witch or a wizard, the castle is the most beautiful and most welcoming sight in the world. As you approach it, you see the high and soaring and beautiful towers, their pointed roofs reaching for the stars. You see the warm and golden and cheerful light spilling from 100 windows. You feel a sense of joy, of peace, and of coming home. But to a Muggle, it is a very different and a very frightening sight. Imagine a Muggle hiker lost in the misty and Scottish hills. They have been walking for hours, and the fog is thick and cold and damp. And then, through a break in the mist, they see it. They do not see a beautiful and magical school. They see a dark and crumbling and dangerous ruin. They see jagged and broken walls and empty and black and staring windows. They see a place of deep and profound sadness and of decay. And as they look upon this dark and forbidding ruin, they are overcome with a sudden and powerful and deeply irrational feeling. A feeling of pure and unadulterated panic. A voice in their mind, a voice that is not their own, but that is as loud and as clear as a shout, screams at them to turn back. They feel a sudden and overwhelming urge to remember a very, very important appointment they have somewhere else. An appointment that they have, for some strange reason, completely forgotten until this very second. And if, by some miracle, their curiosity is stronger than their fear, and they try to walk closer, they will see a large and rusted and ancient sign. And on this sign, in faded and peeling letters, they will read the words, "Danger, do not enter, unsafe." The magic of the castle does not wish to harm muggles. It is a kind and gentle and protective magic. It does not set traps. It does not attack. It simply, politely, and very, very firmly asks them to leave. It is a magical and powerful and invisible no thank you. And the muggle hiker, feeling this overwhelming sense of danger and of dread, will turn around and they will walk as fast as they can in the opposite direction. And by the time they have reached the safety of their car or their village, the memory of the dark and crumbling ruin will have already begun to fade from their mind, like the strange and half-forgotten details of a bad dream. This is the genius of the founder's magic. The castle protects itself, and it protects its students by simply not being seen. And there is one final and powerful layer of defense, a charm that every student knows well from the moment they first read their Hogwarts letter. You cannot apparate onto the Hogwarts grounds. Apparition, that strange and difficult magic of disappearing from one place and reappearing in another in the blink of an eye. It does not work here. The air itself is woven with a powerful and ancient and defensive magic that simply forbids it. You cannot apparate into the castle. You cannot apparate into the great hall or into your common room or even onto the sweeping green lawns. It is the ultimate security. No one, not a dark wizard, not an enemy, not even a well-meaning parent, can simply pop into the castle. To enter Hogwarts, you must do it the old-fashioned way. You must come by the train and by the boats, or you must fly, or you must walk. You must be granted entry. The castle controls who and what is allowed to cross its magical and invisible and powerful boundaries. It is, in every sense of the word, a true and magical fortress, a living that feeling of warmth and of acceptance, of belonging, is a magical and powerful thing. It is the magic that transforms a cold and stone fortress into a warm and living and breathing home. And as the welcome feast, that first grand and wonderful meal, comes to an end, as the last of the golden plates are cleared, and the headmaster wishes you all a good night, that feeling of belonging is about to become a physical place. The prefects of each house stand tall, their badges gleaming in the candlelight. First years, follow me, their voices call out, a chorus of cheerful and steady commands over the happy din of the emptying hall. And so you follow. You join the small and excited and slightly overwhelmed cluster of your fellow first years, and you begin your very first journey to your new home, your common room. Perhaps you are following the Gryffindor prefects. Your journey is a climb, a long and exciting and ever upward climb. You follow them up the grand staircase, your small legs working hard to keep up as the staircases shift and move and groan and finally settle into place. You climb higher and higher, up winding spiral staircases, past sleepy and murmuring portraits and suits of armor that seem to nod at you as you pass. You are heading to one of the highest towers in the castle. Finally, you reach a quiet and simple corridor on the 7th floor, and there, at the end of it, is a large and simple portrait of a woman in a pink silk dress. She is the fat lady. She looks at you, a sleepy and amused expression on her face. "Password?" she asks, her voice a little stern. The prefect turns to you. "Listen well, first years," they say, and they speak a single and simple and often rather strange word. Pig snout, perhaps, or balderdash. The fat lady smiles, a wide and gracious smile. "Well said," she says, and her entire portrait swings forward like a door, revealing a round and welcoming hole in the stone wall behind her. You climb through the portrait hole one by one, and the moment you step inside, you are hit by a wave of wonderful and comforting warmth. The Gryffindor common room is a circular and cozy and wonderfully vibrant room. It is a place of warmth and of comfort and of cheerful and boisterous energy. The walls are hung with beautiful and ancient and scarlet tapestries, and the room is filled with squashy and comfortable and slightly mismatched armchairs and sofas. It feels like the coziest and most welcoming and most lived-in room in the entire world. A huge and roaring fire crackles in the grand stone fireplace, its flames a constant and dancing swirl of scarlet and of gold. The air smells of wood smoke and of toasted marshmallows and of the faint and exciting scent of broomstick polish. It is a room that feels brave and bold and daring, but above all, it feels like home. Or perhaps you are not a Gryffindor. Perhaps you are a Hufflepuff. Your journey is not a climb, but a descent. You follow your prefect down and down and down, past the main staircases, past the entrance hall, and into the basement of the castle. You walk down a wide and gently sloping and stone corridor, a corridor that you know leads towards the kitchens. The air down here is different. It is cool, and it smells of damp earth and of ancient sleeping stone. And it smells of something else, a faint and wonderful and deeply comforting scent of baking bread and of sweet and delicious smelling pastries wafting from the kitchens, which are just around the corner. Your prefect leads you to a place that does not look like a door. at all. It is a large and shadowy recess in the wall, and it is filled with a neat and tall stack of large and wooden barrels. "This is it," the prefect says, a quiet and knowing smile on their face. They point to a specific barrel, the second one from the bottom, in the middle of the stack. "You must tap this barrel, so," they explain, in a specific rhythm, and they tap out a slow and steady and rhythmic pattern. Tap, 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 the rhythm of Helga Hufflepuff. And as you watch, the lid of the barrel swings silently and invitingly open, revealing a dark and round and earthy smelling tunnel. You crawl inside, one by one. The tunnel is short, and it slopes gently upwards, and you emerge into the coziest and most welcoming room you have ever seen. The Hufflepuff Common Room is a place of pure and simple and hobbit-like comfort. It is a round and low-ceilinged and wonderfully earthy-feeling room. It is like a comfortable and magical and welcoming Badger's set. The light is a soft and warm and honey-colored glow. The walls are a cheerful and sunny yellow, and the doors are perfectly round and made of a warm and polished wood. The room is filled with large and comfortable and squashy sofas and armchairs upholstered in cheerful and mismatched fabrics of yellow and of black. And everywhere, there are plants, beautiful and vibrant and living green plants. They hang from the low and beamed ceiling in trailing and leafy vines. They sit on the round and polished and wooden windowsills. It is a room that feels as if it is a part of the very earth itself. It is a place of kindness and of loyalty and of a deep and abiding and gentle patience. The air smells of honey and of fresh, clean earth and of the wonderful and constant and delicious scent of baking from the kitchens nearby. It is a room that feels, above all else, safe. Or perhaps you are a Ravenclaw. Your journey, like the Gryffindors, is a climb, but it is a longer and a more solitary and a more thoughtful one. You climb the grand staircase, but you do not stop at the 7th floor. You keep going up a narrow and winding and spiral staircase that seems to climb forever, up into the very highest and most remote tower of the castle. At the very top, there is no portrait hole. There is no hidden and barreled entrance. There is only a single and simple and beautiful door of aged and dark wood. And on this door, there is no handle, and there is no keyhole. There is only a large and bronze knocker in the shape of a magnificent and intelligent-looking eagle. As your prefect approaches, the eagle's bronze beak opens, and it does not ask for a password. It speaks, its voice a clear and melodic and magical echo in the quiet and airy corridor, and it asks a riddle. "I have no voice," it might say, "but I can tell whichever one you choose. Know that you are in your home, your sanctuary, your place of belonging. And as you lie in your bed tonight, in your quiet and magical and perfect common room, perhaps nestled deep beneath the earth near the kitchens, or high in a windswept tower closer to the stars, you feel a deep and profound sense of peace settle over you, a quiet anchor in the vastness of the ancient castle. But the common room, as cozy and essential as it is just one part of your home within these walls. It is a place of rest, a place defined by your house, your chosen family within the larger school. There is another room, however, a space so grand, so central, so vital to the daily life of Hogwarts that it can only be described as the true and beating heart of the entire castle. It is the room that belongs to everyone. It is the Great Hall. Picture it now in your mind's eye. Let the memory or the imagination carry you out from your quiet common room, through the sleeping, moonlit corridors, perhaps down a familiar staircase, or along a passage you know leads towards the very center of the ground floor. You push open the enormous, heavy oak doors, perhaps twice your height, maybe even 3 times, banded with iron, solid and ancient. They swing inward with a soft, low groan, a sound that speaks of centuries of use, of countless students passing through. And you step inside. The air changes instantly. It is vast, open, filled with the lingering, ghostly aromas of 1,000 magnificent feasts. The faint, savory scent of roast meats, the sweet memory of pumpkin pasties, the warm, comforting perfume of baking bread. It is a cavernous and magical room, so large that it could easily hold the entire assembled population of the school, students, staff, ghosts, even Peeves if he could sit still long enough, and still feel open and airy and grand. The walls are made of a dark and ancient and gray stone, rising high, incredibly high, until they disappear into the shadowy vaults of the ceiling, far above. And set into these walls, at regular intervals, are great and blazing torches, held in heavy, black iron sconces. Their warm and golden light flickers and dances, casting a feeling of immense warmth and of history over the entire space. The flames crackle softly, a gentle, constant counterpoint to the deep and resonant silence of the empty hall. At the far end of the hall, raised slightly on a stone dais, sits the staff table. It is a long and heavy and dark and polished and oaken table stretching almost the entire width of the hall. It is here that all the professors and the headmaster sit during meals, looking out over the sea of students, their faces illuminated by the candlelight, their low, murmuring conversations, a quiet, reassuring hum during the noisy bustle of dinner. And in the very center of the staff table is the headmaster's chair. It is a grand and golden and throne-like seat, intricately carved, a symbol not just of authority, but of the wisdom, the history, and the gentle, guiding presence of the school's leader. You imagine Dumbledore sitting there, his eyes twinkling behind his half-moon spectacles, observing the life of the school unfold before him. And standing before the staff table, ready for announcements or for the sorting ceremony, is a simple yet elegant and oaken lectern. It is beautifully carved in the shape of a great and wise owl, its wings spread wide, as if ready to take flight, its wooden eyes seeming to hold a deep and ancient knowledge. It is from here that the headmaster addresses the school, their voice magically amplified to fill the vast hall. It is from here that they welcome you, at the start of every year, their words echoing with the promise of magic and of learning and of adventure, stretching the entire vast length of the hall, from the dais all the way back to the enormous oaken doors where you stand, are the 4 great house tables, 4 long and ancient and wooden tables, placed parallel to each other, one for each of the houses, Gryffindor and Hufflepuff and Ravenclaw and Slytherin. They are made of the same dark and sturdy oak as the staff table, and they are worn smooth with the passage of 1,000 years. Run your hand over their surface in your mind. Feel the countless tiny scratches and marks, the ghosts of forgotten homework assignments carved with a quill, the faint, dark stains from spilled pumpkin juice, the smooth, polished patina created by the elbows and hands, and books of generations upon generations of students. These tables hold the history of 1,000,000 meals, 1,000,000 whispered conversations, 1,000,000 friendships forged over shared plates of shepherd's pie. This room is the great gathering place. It is the castle's dining room, its assembly hall, its examination center, its ballroom, its very heart. It is here that you come, 3 times a day, pulled by the cheerful, chiming summons of the enchanted bell, to eat and to talk and to laugh and to simply be with your friends, surrounded by the vibrant and sometimes chaotic energy of the entire school and the magic of the feasts. Oh, the magic of the feasts is a magic of pure and simple and domestic comfort, elevated to a grand and magnificent scale. You imagine sitting at your house table on the long and slightly uncomfortable but deeply familiar wooden benches. You are surrounded by your friends, the air alive with the happy and excited and cheerful buzz of 1,000 simultaneous conversations, arguments about Quidditch, gossip about classes, plans for the weekend, and before you, on the table, are the most beautiful and golden and gleaming plates you have ever seen, alongside heavy golden goblets. They are empty, and you are hungry after a long day of lessons. The headmaster might say a few words, perhaps a cryptic piece of advice or a simple welcome. And then, in a single and magical and always wonderful moment, the food appears with a soft and magical whoosh, a sound that is felt as much as heard. The empty golden plates and goblets are suddenly and miraculously laden with the most delicious food you have ever smelled. Great and heavy and silver platters materialize out of thin air, piled high with perfectly roasted chicken, its skin crisp and golden, or perhaps slices of tender roast beef. Huge bowls appear, filled to the brim with fluffy and steaming and buttery mashed potatoes, or perhaps golden roasted ones. Dishes overflow with bright green peas, sweet roasted parsnips, tender carrots. Boats, brimming with thick and rich and savory gravy, appear beside them. The smell is overwhelming, a beautiful and warm and comforting perfume of home and of abundance, a scent that immediately makes your stomach rumble with happy anticipation. This effortless abundance comes, of course, from the kitchens, which, as you know from our previous tale, are located directly beneath the Great Hall. It is a perfect and magical mirror. As you sit at your house table in the grand and high-ceilinged hall, 100 tiny, dedicated house elves are bustling and working and cooking with immense skill and love in the vast and warm and firelit kitchen directly below your feet. And the food they prepare, the same simple, comforting dishes they might serve themselves, is sent by powerful, ancient house elf magic directly up to the corresponding table in the hall above, ensuring it arrives perfectly hot, perfectly fresh, and in seemingly endless quantities. And as you eat, as you laugh, as you fill yourself with the warm and delicious food, you are surrounded by the most wonderful and comforting and magical light. For floating in the air, in the vast and open space between the long tables and the high, vaulted ceiling far above, are thousands upon thousands of candles, not electric lights, not gas lamps, but real wax candles, their flames burning with a clean and smokeless and golden light. They float, seemingly at random, in a beautiful and gentle and constantly drifting pattern, like a slow, silent river of tiny stars. Their warm and golden flames cast a soft and flickering and deeply comforting glow over the entire hall, making faces look kinder, making the food look richer, making the entire experience feel warm and safe and magical. And above the candles, above it all, hangs the most famous and the most breathtaking and the most magical feature of the entire castle, the enchanted ceiling. It is a masterpiece of ancient and powerful and beautiful magic, said to have been enchanted by Rowena Ravenclaw herself, though perhaps all the founders had a hand in it. It is bewitched to look exactly like the sky outside in real time. On your very first night as a small and nervous and wide-eyed first year, you looked up past the floating candles and you gasped, for you did not see a ceiling of cold, dark stone. You saw a vast and deep and velvety black expanse, studded with 1,000,000 glittering and brilliant and silver stars. You saw the Milky Way, a faint and beautiful and shimmering ribbon of ghostly light stretching across the heavens. You saw the moon, perhaps a crescent, perhaps full, a perfect and luminous and silver disk hanging amongst the constellations. It was so real, so utterly convincing. It felt as if there was no ceiling at all, as if the founders had simply forgotten to build one, leaving you to eat your feast in a grand and beautiful and open-air courtyard under the vast and open and starry night sky. And the ceiling changes constantly, reflecting the world outside the castle walls. In the morning, at breakfast, you look up past the candles that still burn brightly, and you see a beautiful and pale and watery and blue sky, perhaps with a few and wispy and white clouds drifting lazily across it, like ships on a calm sea. The hall is filled with a bright and cheerful and optimistic morning light, and sometimes on a dark and stormy and winter's afternoon, the ceiling is a work of high and magnificent drama. You will look up from your pumpkin juice, and you will see a dark and swirling and bruised and purple canvas of angry clouds churning and boiling overhead. You will see a sudden, brilliant flash of purple and forked lightning arcing across the enchanted sky, illuminating the entire hall for a split second. You will hear, a moment later, a great and deep and rumbling crash of thunder echoing through the vast stone hall, making the golden plates rattle slightly on the tables. And yet, you are perfectly safe. You are perfectly dry. You are perfectly warm. It is all the drama, all the beauty, all the thrilling power of a great and powerful storm, with absolutely none of the danger. It is a magical and moving and constantly changing painting, a window onto the wild and beautiful world outside. And at special times, the ceiling is decorated even further. At Halloween, you will walk into the great hall for the feast, and you will look up and you will see not just the dark and perhaps starry night sky, but 1,000 and bright and orange and cheerful and floating pumpkins hovering amongst the candles. They will drift and bob and turn slowly in the air, their faces carved with cheerful and goofy and sometimes slightly spooky and flickering and candle-lit grins. Bats, real, live, but harmless bats, might flit amongst them, adding to the festive and slightly spooky atmosphere. And at Christmas, oh, at Christmas, the magic of the ceiling is the most beautiful and the most peaceful of all. You will look up at the enchanted ceiling, perhaps seeing a dark and cold and gray and winter's sky depicted there, and you will see soft and white and gentle and beautiful snowflakes, as large and as intricate as your hand, beginning to fall from it. They will drift down and down and down through the warm candlelit air, a slow and silent and magical and swirling ballet. And just before they reach the top of your head, they will melt. They will vanish into a soft and gentle and cool mist that never, ever actually lands, never makes you cold or damp. It is a magical and indoor snowstorm that is warm and dry and deeply and profoundly beautiful, a perfect and peaceful enchantment for the festive season. The Great Hall is the heart of the castle. It is the place of community. It is the place of warmth. It is the place of food and of friendship and of shared experience. It is where you feel the pulse and the heartbeat of the entire school, all gathered together under one magical roof. And as you lie in your bed tonight, imagine yourself in that vast and beautiful and magical hall. Imagine you are sitting at your long and wooden house table. Imagine you are surrounded by your friends, their faces warm and smiling in the candlelight. Feel the gentle warmth of the thousands of floating candles on your face. See the beautiful and starry, or perhaps stormy, or perhaps snowy, enchanted ceiling high above you. Feel the deep and profound and comforting sense of community, of belonging, of being a part of something great and ancient and enduring and wonderful. You are a part of this magic. You are a part of this home. And now it is time to rest. Let the thought of that warm and golden you are a part of this magic. You are a part of this home. Let the thought of that warm and golden and cheerful hall and its beautiful and ever-changing and magical ceiling be your comfort tonight. Feel the gentle warmth of the thousands of floating candles on your face. See the beautiful and starry, or perhaps stormy, or perhaps snowy, enchanted ceiling high above you. Feel the deep and profound and comforting sense of community, of belonging, of being a part of something great and ancient and enduring and wonderful. But the castle, like any ancient and magical being, holds more than just warmth and light and community within its walls. It holds secrets, deep and ancient, and sometimes dark secrets. Secrets that sleep beneath the cheerful bustle of the great hall, beneath the cozy comfort of the common rooms, beneath the very foundations of the school. And the oldest and darkest and most famous of these secrets is the Chamber of Secrets. Think back to our story of the four founders. Think back to Salazar Slytherin, the cunning and ambitious and deeply proud wizard from the Fen. Remember his distrust of Muggle-borns, his fierce belief in blood purity, and the bitter and irreparable argument that led him to abandon the castle he had helped to build. He left Hogwarts, his friendship with Godric Gryffindor shattered, his vision for a purely magical school rejected. But Slytherin, in his great and terrible cunning, did not leave quietly. He left behind a final and parting curse, a secret weapon, a hidden legacy of his prejudice buried deep within the castle's heart, waiting for a time when his own true heir could return and finish the work he had started. He built a chamber, a place unknown to the other founders, hidden so cleverly that for 1,000 years it would become little more than a legend, a frightening story whispered by students in the dark corridors after curfew. A chamber of secrets. The legend persisted, passed down through generations. Some said it was just a story, a myth created to frighten younger students. Others particularly those who shared Slytherin's dark views on blood purity, believed it was real. They whispered that the chamber housed a monster, a creature so terrible that it could purge the school of all those Slytherin had deemed unworthy to study magic, those born to muggles. For centuries, the chamber remained hidden. Headmaster after headmaster searched for it, using every spell, every piece of historical knowledge they possessed. But Slytherin had been clever. He had sealed his chamber with a magic that few could command, a magic that ran in his own bloodline. The entrance could only be opened by a Parselmouth, one who could speak the ancient and sibilant language of serpents. And so, the chamber slept, waiting, a dark and silent and forgotten secret, dreaming beneath the castle's foundations. Imagine, now, the place where this secret lies hidden. It is not in a grand or obvious location. It is not guarded by fierce and magical beasts, or by complex and shimmering spells. Slytherin, in his cunning, chose a place that was ordinary, mundane, overlooked, a place few would ever think to investigate. He hid the entrance in a girl's bathroom, a rather gloomy and little-used bathroom on the second floor, a place haunted by the constant and mournful wailing of a ghost named Moaning Myrtle. Picture the bathroom now. The air is cool and damp. The light is dim, filtering in through a single, high and grimy window. The sound of Moaning Myrtle's ghostly sobs echoes, sadly, off the cracked and peeling tiles. Along one wall stands a row of old and copper taps. Each tap is worn and tarnished with age, but one tap is different. It does not have a cross-shaped handle like the others. Instead, scratched onto its surface, almost invisible unless you look very closely, is a tiny and intricately carved serpent. It is a lock that only Parseltongue can open. Imagine standing before that tap. Imagine whispering the strange and ancient and sibilant words, the language of snakes. Open up. And as the hissing sound leaves your lips, imagine the magic beginning. The tiny, carved serpent on the tap glows with a faint and sickly and green light. The tap itself begins to spin, faster and faster, a high and metallic whining sound filling the air. And then, the entire sink, the heavy and porcelain basin, begins to sink downwards, lowering itself into the floor, revealing a dark and gaping and circular opening beneath. A pipe, a slide, wide enough for a person to enter, leading down, 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 into the absolute and unknown darkness below. This is the entrance, the gateway to Slytherin's dark legacy. Imagine, if you dare, the journey down. It is a long and dark and slimy slide, twisting and turning like a great stone serpent through the very bowels of the earth beneath the castle. The air is cold and damp, and it smells of decay and of ancient, stagnant water. The only sound is the echoing rush of your own passage through the pipe and the faint and unsettling sound of something scraping and slithering in the darkness far below. Finally, the slide levels out and you land with a soft and unpleasant squelch on a damp and cold and dark stone floor. You are in a long and circular tunnel. It is pitch black. You whisper Lumos, and the tip of your wand illuminates a scene that is both terrifying and deeply sad. The floor of the tunnel is littered with the small and delicate bones of countless small animals, rats and mice, and perhaps even birds that have crawled or fallen into this dark place over the centuries and never found their way out. Their tiny skulls seem to watch you from the shadows, empty eye sockets gleaming in your wand light. You walk forward, your footsteps echoing eerily in the confined space. The air is heavy and still, and it carries the faint and reptilian scent of snake. You walk for a long time, the only sound the crunching of the tiny bones beneath your feet. And then, ahead of you, you see it, a solid stone wall blocking the tunnel. But this is no ordinary wall. It is carved into the likeness of two enormous and intricately entwined serpents. Their stone eyes are set with what look like large and uncut emeralds, and they gleam with a cold and malevolent light in the darkness. This is the final door, and like the first, it requires the ancient key. You whisper the parcel tongue command once more, open, and as the hissing sound echoes in the silent tunnel, the stone serpents begin to move. They unwind from each other with a low and grinding and deeply unsettling sound, the sound of ancient stone shifting against ancient stone. They slide apart, revealing a dark and square opening in the wall. You step through the opening, and you find yourself in the Chamber of Secrets. It is a vast and cavernous and awe-inspiring space, far larger than you could have possibly imagined. The ceiling is so high, it is lost in shadow, supported by immense and carved stone pillars that twine around each other like giant fossilized snakes. The entire chamber is filled with a strange and eerie and greenish gloom, a watery and underwater light that seems to emanate from the very stones themselves. The air is cold and still, and it carries the heavy and ancient scent of darkness and of powerful and sleeping magic. The only sound is the soft and rhythmic drip, drip, drip of water echoing from somewhere in the vast and shadowy distance. You walk forward into the immense and silent chamber. Your footsteps echo loudly on the cold and damp stone floor. The great snake-like pillars tower over you, their carved stone scales seeming to shift and writhe in the eerie green light. And then you see it. At the very far end of the vast and echoing chamber stands a statue, a colossal statue, reaching almost to the shadowy, unseen ceiling. It is the statue of a wizard, an ancient and monkey-like man with a long and thin beard that falls almost to the bottom of his sweeping stone robes. It is the statue of Salazar Slytherin himself, his stone face carved into an expression of cold and proud and ancient majesty. He stands, frozen in time, guarding the final secret of his hidden chamber. For within that statue, behind the cold and stone lips of the founder, lies the monster, the basilisk. It is a serpent king, a creature of immense size and power and deadly magic, born from a chicken's egg, hatched beneath a toad. Its scales are a glittering and poisonous green. Its eyes, its great and yellow eyes, hold the most terrible power of all. Direct eye contact with the basilisk means instant death. Even seeing its reflection in water or in a mirror or through the lens of a camera causes petrification, a magical paralysis that turns the victim to stone. And it has another weapon, its fangs. They are as long as swords, and they drip with a venom so potent, so deadly, that it is one of the very few substances in the magical world that can destroy a Horcrux. It is a creature born of dark magic, designed for a single, terrible purpose: to obey the heir of Slytherin, to hunt, and to kill. This is the dark secret that Salazar Slytherin left behind, a legacy of his prejudice, a weapon of hatred hidden in the very foundations of a school built on the ideals of unity and of acceptance. It is a chilling thought, a dark shadow in the long and proud history of Hogwarts. But as you lie in your bed tonight, remember this: the chamber has been opened, the monster has been faced, and it has been defeated, not by hatred, not by prejudice, but by bravery, by loyalty, by the very virtues that Slytherin himself despised. The castle holds dark secrets, yes. It holds echoes of ancient and terrible arguments, but it also holds the magic of friendship, the power of courage, and the enduring light of hope. The darkness is real, but the light is stronger. And now it is time to rest. Let the thought of that deep and ancient chamber, now silent and empty and safe, be a reminder not of fear, but of the strength that lies within these walls, the strength that lies within you. Sleep now. You are safe. The monster sleeps forever. There is more to explore, the kindest and most hidden rooms that wait to be found, the magical creatures that roam the grounds, and the silent and watchful ghosts that drift through the corridors. But that is for another time. For now, sleep. The darkness is real, yes, but the light within these ancient walls is indeed stronger. The thought of that deep and ancient chamber, now silent and empty and safe, settles in your mind, a quiet reminder not of fear, but of the resilience, the bravery that this castle fosters, the strength that lies within its very stones and within you. Sleep now, feeling safe. The monster sleeps forever, but the castle does not only hold shadows and echoes of ancient, dark arguments. Just as it absorbed Slytherin's prejudice, it also absorbed the kindness of Hufflepuff, the wisdom of Ravenclaw, the bravery of Gryffindor. It holds secrets born not of hatred, but of need, of comfort, and of profound, magical care. And perhaps the most wonderful, the most mysterious, and the kindest of all the castle's hidden places is the Room of Requirement. Unlike the Chamber of Secrets, this is not a place spoken of in hushed, fearful whispers. It is a legend of a different sort, a rumor passed down through generations of students, often dismissed as wishful thinking or a confused memory. Some call it the come and go room. They say it is a room that is sometimes there and sometimes not. A room that you can walk past 100 times and never see until the one day you desperately need it. Imagine yourself now walking the corridors of the 7th floor, high up in the castle, near the top of the grand staircase. The air here is thinner, quieter. You walk down a long and relatively unremarkable corridor. On one side, there are tall, arched windows looking out over the moonlit grounds. On the other side is a blank stretch of stone wall. It is smooth and featureless, just like countless other walls in this vast and ancient building. Opposite this blank wall hangs a large and rather faded tapestry. It depicts the foolish and slightly comical attempt of Barnabas the Barmy trying to teach trolls ballet. You have walked past this spot 1,000 times on your way to divination class, perhaps, or simply exploring. You have never seen a door here, and yet, sometimes, a door appears. The magic of the Room of Requirement is a magic born of deep and genuine need. It does not respond to idle curiosity. It does not appear for those who are simply looking for it out of boredom or mischief. It reveals itself only to a witch or wizard who is in true and profound need. Imagine a student, perhaps overwhelmed by the pressure of upcoming exams, desperately needing a quiet place to study, away from the cheerful chaos of their common room. Imagine them pacing this very corridor, their heart filled with anxiety, thinking, I need a quiet place. I need somewhere I can focus. I need books and silence and maybe a comfortable chair. Imagine them walking past the blank stretch of wall opposite the tapestry of the dancing trolls, once, twice, and then a third time. And on that third pass, as they concentrate with all their being on their desperate need for sanctuary, a door begins to appear. It does not burst into existence with a flash of light or a loud noise. It emerges slowly, gracefully, silently from the solid stone. Perhaps it is a simple and sturdy and unassuming wooden door. Or perhaps, if the student's need is particularly great, it is a grand and polished and elegant door with a shining brass handle. It solidifies. It becomes real. A door where, just a moment before, there was only blank and empty wall. Hesitantly, the student reaches out. They turn the handle. They push the door open, and they step inside, and the room they find is perfect. It is exactly what they needed, even if they did not consciously know it. Perhaps it is a small and cozy library nook, just like the one we found in our earlier tale, filled with comfortable armchairs, a crackling fire, and exactly the right textbooks laid out on a small, round table. Or perhaps it is a vast and silent study hall, filled with long tables and endless shelves of reference books. The room understands the true underlying need, not just the surface request. It provides not just a place to study, but a place of peace, of focus, of calm. This is the beautiful and empathetic magic of the room of requirement. It transforms itself. It becomes whatever the seeker truly needs it to be at that moment. Think of the possibilities. Imagine a student heartbroken after their first teenage romance has ended. They pace the corridor, thinking, I need somewhere to cry. I need somewhere soft and private and comforting. And the door appears. And inside, perhaps they find a small, dimly lit room filled with soft cushions and a large box of tissues, and perhaps even a magically self-refilling cup of warm, soothing tea. Imagine another student practicing for a difficult practical charms exam, desperately needing a space where they won't accidentally hex their roommates. They pace, thinking, I need space. I need targets. I need room to practice without breaking anything. The door appears, and inside they find a large and empty hall, perhaps with dummies set up for target practice, the walls magically reinforced to absorb any stray spells. And sometimes the need is not for comfort or for practice, but for hiding. Imagine in someone needing to conceal a dangerous or forbidden object. They pace the corridor, thinking, I need to hide this. Somewhere, no one will ever find it. Somewhere, it will be lost forever. The door appears, a simple, perhaps slightly grimy door this time, and inside, they find a room the size of a cathedral, a vast and chaotic and overwhelming labyrinth filled with towering piles of hidden and forgotten things, broken furniture, banned books, confiscated potions, lost treasures, centuries upon centuries of hidden objects stacked high to the shadowy ceiling. It is the room of hidden things, a place where anything can be lost and almost nothing can ever be found again. It is the perfect hiding place. The room understands. It adapts. It provides. Think of Dumbledore's army needing a secret and secure place to practice defense against the dark arts, right under the nose of the tyrannical Dolores Umbridge. They paced the corridor, their hearts filled with a desperate and defiant need for a place to learn, to fight back. And the door appeared, and inside they found a large and spacious room lined with bookshelves filled with defense texts, cushions scattered on the floor for practice duels, and even sneakoscopes and faux glasses mounted on the walls to warn them of approaching danger. It was the perfect secret headquarters. The magic of the Room of Requirement is ancient and deep and profoundly kind. It is the castle itself, in its living and sentient wisdom, recognizing the needs of its inhabitants and providing for them in the most magical and unexpected way. It is a secret, whispered promise from the very stones of Hogwarts. Ask when you are truly in need, and you shall receive. It is the complete opposite of the Chamber of Secrets. The chamber was born of prejudice and of hatred, designed to harm and to exclude. But the Room of Requirement is born of empathy and of kindness, designed to help and to include. It is a testament to the enduring goodness that lies at the very heart of the castle, a magic that is stronger and more resilient than any darkness. It is a room that can be a sanctuary, a training ground, a hiding place, a bathroom, even, as Dumbledore once discovered in a moment of urgent need. It is whatever you need it to be. It is the castle's quiet and magical way of saying, I am here for you. I will take care of you. And as you lie in your bed tonight, imagine that blank stretch of wall on the 7th floor. Imagine yourself walking past it, your heart filled with a simple and gentle need. Perhaps a need for peace. Perhaps a need for comfort. Perhaps just a need for a warm and quiet place to rest your weary mind. Imagine walking past once, twice, and on the 3rd pass, imagine a simple and welcoming door appearing in the stone before you. Imagine opening that door and stepping inside into a room that feels perfectly and completely and wonderfully right. A room designed just for you. A room where you feel safe and understood and cared for. Let that feeling of perfect provision, of quiet, magical care be your comfort tonight. Let the knowledge that the castle itself is looking out for you in ways you may not even understand soothe your mind. You are cared for. You are provided for. You are home. And now it is time to rest. Let the thought of that secret and kind and ever-changing room be your gentle companion as you drift off to sleep. There is more to explore, the magical creatures that roam the grounds, the silent and watchful ghosts that drift through the corridors, and the ancient forest that sleeps just beyond the castle walls. But that is for another time. For now, sleep and sweet dreams. You are cared for. You are provided for. You are home. Let the thought of that secret and kind and ever-changing room, the Room of Requirement, be your gentle companion as you drift off to sleep. It is a quiet promise whispered by the very stones of Hogwarts. The castle itself is looking out for you, understanding your needs, providing sanctuary in ways you may not even comprehend. But the magic of Hogwarts is not confined solely within its ancient stone walls or hidden away in its secret chambers. The castle, grand and magnificent as it is, sits nestled within vast, sprawling grounds, a landscape brimming with its own deep, ancient, and sometimes wild magic. As you lie in your bed, feeling the gentle, protective presence of the castle around you, let your mind drift outwards now, beyond the familiar warmth of your dormitory, beyond the thick stone walls, and out into the cool, moonlit air of the grounds themselves. Imagine yourself standing, perhaps, at one of the high, arched windows of the Owlery Tower, or maybe looking out from the battlements near the Astronomy Tower. Below you, stretching out in all directions, lie the magnificent grounds of Hogwarts. In the silvery, ethereal light of the full moon, the familiar, sweeping lawns are transformed into a landscape of soft, undulating shadows and pale, shimmering highlights. The pathways that crisscross the grounds are like faint, silver ribbons laid across dark velvet. The air out here is cool and crisp, and it carries the clean, earthy scent of damp grass, of ancient trees, and of the vast, dark expanse of water that lies nearby. It is profoundly quiet. The cheerful, daytime sounds of students laughing, of owls hooting from the owlery, of spells being practiced on the lawns, all are gone. The only sounds are the soft, gentle whisper of the night breeze rustling through the leaves, the distant, mournful cry of some nocturnal creature, and the soft, rhythmic lapping of water against a far-off shore. To one side, stretching away into the darkness, lies the Forbidden Forest. Its edge marks a clear and distinct boundary. On this side, the lawns are neat, the trees are scattered and familiar. Ancient oaks, sturdy beeches, weeping willows dipping their long fronds towards the grass. But on the other side, the forest begins. It is a dark and dense and ancient wood. The trees here are different, taller, darker, more gnarled. Their branches seem to interlock overhead, creating a thick, black canopy that even the bright moonlight struggles to penetrate. It looks forbidden, a place of deep shadows and of secrets older than the castle itself. The forest presses right up against the castle grounds, a constant, silent reminder of the wild, untamed magic that exists just beyond the borders of safety. Students are warned from their very first year never to enter the forest alone. It is a place of danger, yes, but it is also a place of profound and ancient magic. Imagine standing right at the edge, where the neat lawn gives way to the tangled undergrowth and the first line of dark, imposing trees. The air temperature drops noticeably. The gentle breeze that rustles the leaves on the lawn seems to die away, leaving a deep and watchful stillness. The smell changes too. It is the rich, dark, loamy scent of centuries of fallen leaves decaying on the forest floor. It is the damp, green scent of moss clinging to ancient bark. And sometimes there is another scent, something sharp and wild and distinctly non-human. The sounds are different here too, or rather, the lack of sounds. The cheerful chirping of birds that fills the castle grounds during the day is absent here. The forest is strangely silent of birdsong. The only sounds are the soft, almost imperceptible rustle of unseen things moving in the undergrowth, the occasional snap of a dry twig under some unknown weight, the low hoot of an owl far, far away in the deepest depths. It is a silence that feels watchful, aware, but the forest is not empty. It is teeming with life, magical life, creatures that thrive in the deep shadows and under the protection of the ancient trees. Deep within the forest's heart dwell the centaur herds. They are proud and ancient and deeply intelligent beings, half human, half horse. Picture them in your mind, the powerful equine body, sleek and strong, and rising from the shoulders, the torso, arms, and head of a human. They are masters of archery, of divination, of reading the secrets written in the movements of the stars. They are deeply connected to the magic of the forest, and they guard their territory fiercely. They prefer their solitude, their own ancient ways, and they interact with the wizards of the castle only when necessary. Their relationship often marked by a cautious and sometimes strained respect. Imagine catching a glimpse of one through the trees, perhaps standing in a moonlit clearing, their head tilted back, reading the constellations, their expression stern and wise and utterly unreadable. Deeper still, in the darkest, most shadowed parts of the forest, lies the colony of acromantulas, giant spiders, as large as small elephants, with thick, black, hairy bodies and multiple, gleaming, black eyes. They live in a vast, web-shrouded hollow, a place few wizards have ever seen and returned from. While their presence is undeniably terrifying, think of them now not as monsters, but as ancient, sentient creatures, living out their long lives according to their own strange and complex society, deep within the protective gloom of their forest home. Hear, perhaps, in your imagination, the faint, dry, clicking sound of their pincers echoing softly through the deep woods. They keep to themselves, deep in the forest's heart, a dark and powerful presence best left undisturbed. And then there are the Thestrals, creatures as misunderstood as they are unique. Imagine them now, gathered perhaps in a quiet, moonlit glade within the forest. They look like great, black, skeletal horses, their bodies covered not in flesh, but in a smooth, dark, leathery hide that clings tightly to their bones. They have vast, bat-like wings that fold against their sides, and strange, white, pupilless eyes. They are creatures that can only be seen by those who have witnessed death and truly understood its meaning. To those who cannot see them, they are just an invisible presence, the strange, echoing clopping of unseen hooves on the forest floor. But if you can see them, you see their quiet, gentle nature. They are not creatures of darkness, despite their appearance. They are intelligent and loyal, and possess an uncanny sense of direction. Hogwarts keeps a herd of them, cared for lovingly by Hagrid, using them to pull the carriages that bring the older students from Hogsmeade Station to the castle. Imagine their silent, graceful flight through the night sky, their great, leathery wings catching the moonlight, their eerie, skeletal forms somehow beautiful against the backdrop of the stars. But the forest does not only hold darkness and mystery, it holds purity and light as well. For hidden within its deepest, most protected groves live the unicorns. Imagine stumbling upon one, a rare and breathtaking sight, a creature of pure, dazzling, silvery white, its coat shimmering like spun moonlight. A single, pearlescent horn spirals elegantly from its forehead. Its eyes are large and gentle and wise, the color of deep sapphire blue. They are shy and elusive creatures, preferring the company of women, it is said, and possessing powerful magic. Their horn, their hair, even their blood, holds potent healing properties, though harming such a pure creature is an act of profound darkness. Imagine the feeling of peace, of pure, untainted magic that would wash over you just being in the presence of such a creature, its silvery form a beacon of light in the ancient, shadowed woods, the forbidden forest, a place of danger, yes, but also a place of wonder, a place of ancient magic, of hidden life, a wild and untamed counterpart to the ordered, magical world within the castle walls. Now, let your mind drift away from the dark edge of the forest and turn your attention to the other great natural feature of the Hogwarts grounds. Stretching out before the castle, vast and dark and mysterious, lies the Black Lake. It is immense, so large that you cannot see the opposite shore from the castle windows. Its surface, on a calm, moonlit night like this, is like a sheet of polished black glass, perfectly reflecting the stars and the moon and the dark, imposing silhouette of the castle itself. On stormy days, its surface can be choppy and gray, whipped into white-capped waves by the fierce highland winds. Imagine standing on the shore. The air here is cooler, damper, carrying the clean, slightly metallic scent of deep, fresh water. The only sound is the soft, gentle, rhythmic lapping of the water against the stony shore. Lap, 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 a soothing, constant, watery heartbeat. But the lake, like the forest, is far from empty. Its dark and cold and mysterious depths teem with their own forms of magical life. Deep beneath the surface lives the giant squid. Its true size and nature remain a mystery. Most students only ever catch glimpses of it. Perhaps on a sunny afternoon, you might see one of its enormous, suckered tentacles break the surface near the shore, waving slowly and gently like a friendly greeting before sinking back down into the inky depths. It seems to be a peaceful and perhaps even benevolent creature, occasionally helping students who fall into the lake. But its true form, its full, colossal size, lurking in the deep, dark water, remains one of the castle's great and gentle mysteries. Imagine its vast, slow-moving shadow passing far beneath you, a silent, ancient guardian of the deep. Deeper still, in the cold and lightless abyss at the very bottom of the lake, lies the merpeople's village. The Scottish merpeople, sometimes called selkies or sirens, are not the beautiful, half-human creatures of Muggle fairy tales. They are wilder, stranger, more ancient. They have grayish skin, long, wild green hair that floats around them like seaweed, and large, yellow eyes that glow faintly in the dark depths. Their lower halves are powerful, silvery fishtails. They have their own complex society, their own ancient language, a harsh, screeching sound when heard above the water, but perhaps beautiful and melodic in its proper underwater context. They keep to themselves, guardians of their deep, watery realm, occasionally interacting with the school, as they did during the Triwizard Tournament, their strange and haunting songs echoing across the lake's surface. And closer to the shore, lurking amongst the reeds and the slippery, underwater rocks, you might find grindylows, small and green and horned water demons with long, spindly fingers perfect for grabbing unsuspecting ankles. They are mischievous and sometimes aggressive, but mostly just a nuisance to swimmers in the shallows. Imagine their small, pale faces and large, green eyes peering out from amongst the waving fronds of seaweed, their sharp little teeth bared in a grumpy grimace. The Black Lake, as deep and as mysterious and as full of hidden life as the Forbidden Forest. It is another boundary, another place where the safe and ordered world of the castle meets the wild and untamed magic of the natural world. The forest and the lake, two vast and ancient and magical realms bordering the castle grounds. They are places of mystery, of beauty, and sometimes of danger, but they are also an essential part of Hogwarts. They are a reminder that magic is not just about spells and books and classrooms. It is also about the wild and untamed and ancient power that sleeps in the earth, in the water, and in the deep, dark shadows of the world. And as you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the vast and silent grounds stretching out around you. Picture the dark and watchful edge of the Forbidden Forest, filled with its ancient trees and its hidden creatures. Picture the deep and dark and mysterious expanse of the Black Lake, its still surface reflecting the moon, its depths holding secrets yet unknown. Feel the ancient and wild magic of these places, coexisting peacefully with the warm and protective magic of the castle. Feel the sense of wonder, the sense of mystery, the sense of being a small but important part of a vast and ancient and deeply magical world. You are safe within the castle walls, but the wild magic is always there, just beyond the edge of the light, a constant and beautiful reminder of the deep and enduring power of nature. And now it is time to rest. Let the image of the moonlit grounds, the dark forest, and the deep, still lake lull your mind into a peaceful and quiet state. Let the gentle sounds of the night, the whisper of the wind, the soft lapping of the water be your gentle and soothing lullaby. There is more to explore. The strange and wonderful creatures cared for by the groundskeeper, the ghostly inhabitants who drift through the castle corridors, and the secret passages that connect them all. But that is for another time. For now, sleep and sweet dreams. You are safe within the castle walls, but the wild magic is always there, just beyond the edge of the light, the dark, watchful edge of the forbidden forest, filled with its ancient trees and its hidden creatures, the deep and dark and mysterious expanse of the Black Lake, its still surface reflecting the moon, its depths holding secrets yet unknown. Let the image of the moonlit grounds, the dark forest, and the deep, still lake lull your mind into a peaceful and quiet state. Let the gentle sounds of the night, the whisper of the wind, the soft lapping of the water be your gentle and soothing lullaby. But the grounds hold more than just these vast, natural wonders. Dotted across the sprawling lawns, standing silent sentinel under the moon, are other features, other secrets, some placed there by nature, others by magical design. And perhaps one of the most famous and most formidable stands alone on a gentle slope not far from the path that leads towards Hogsmeade Village, the Whomping Willow. Picture it now. Even from a distance, it is an imposing sight. It is an ancient and massive tree, its trunk thick and gnarled and scarred, looking as if it has weathered 1,000 storms. Its branches are not like those of an ordinary willow, graceful and weeping towards the ground. They are thick and muscular and knotted like angry fists, and they are never still. Even on the calmest night, when the rest of the grounds are still and silent, the whomping willow writhes and thrashes. Its heavy branches whip through the air with a ferocious and terrifying speed, a constant, violent dance. You can hear the sound it makes even from far away, a low and angry, whooshing, swishing sound, like a giant, invisible beast thrashing in its sleep. It is a tree that radiates pure and untamed aggression. It is a tree that warns you in no uncertain terms to stay away. Many students believe it is just a particularly violent and dangerous magical plant, perhaps planted centuries ago as some kind of forgotten defense. They tell stories of students who got too close, of brooms smashed to splinters, of near-fatal encounters. And indeed, the tree is dangerous. It will attack anything and anyone that comes within reach of its flailing branches. But the whomping willow is not just a random act of violent, magical nature. Like so many things at Hogwarts, it has a secret. It has a purpose. It was planted much more recently than most students imagine. It was planted specifically and deliberately around the time a young lycanthropic boy named Remus Lupin first came to Hogwarts. Dumbledore, in his great wisdom and compassion, believed that Lupin deserved an education, deserved a place at the school, despite his condition. But he also knew that the safety of the other students was paramount. He needed a place where Lupin could transform safely, far away from anyone he might harm during the terrifying and uncontrollable hours of the full moon. And so, a plan was formed. A small, abandoned house on the very outskirts of Hogsmeade Village, far from any other dwellings, was secured, and a secret tunnel was dug, a long and earthy passage that led all the way from the Hogwarts grounds, under the fields, and up into the cellar of this remote house. But the entrance to this tunnel needed to be hidden. It needed to be guarded. It needed something that would keep curious students away, something that no one would dare approach. And so, the Whomping Willow was planted directly over the tunnel's entrance. Its violent and thrashing branches became the perfect and most effective disguise imaginable. The tree, however, is not completely untamable. Like the most complex magical locks, it has a key, a secret, hidden amongst the swirling and chaotic roots at its base is a single, small, and gnarled knot. If you know exactly where to look, and if you are brave enough, or perhaps small enough, to get close enough to press it, the entire tree falls instantly silent. Its furious thrashing ceases. Its branches freeze mid-sway, becoming as still and as silent as any ordinary tree. Pressing the knot pauses the magic, allowing safe passage into the hidden tunnel beneath its roots. This secret, known only to a very few, allowed Remus Lupin, and later his closest friends, to access the tunnel safely each month. It transformed a symbol of danger into a gateway of protection and of profound friendship. And the house at the other end of that tunnel, the house where Lupin endured his monthly transformations, gained its own dark and fearful reputation. It sits on a hill overlooking Hogsmeade Village, slightly apart from the other cozy, welcoming cottages. It is a run-down and dilapidated building, its windows boarded up, its garden overgrown with weeds, its paint peeling. It looks haunted. And indeed, the villagers of Hogsmeade believed it was. On the nights of the full moon, they would hear the most terrifying sounds drifting down from the house on the hill. Horrifying screams, anguished howls, the sound of furniture being smashed, of wood splintering. They became convinced that the house was inhabited by the most violent and terrifying ghosts imaginable. They called it the Shrieking Shack, and it gained the reputation as the most haunted building in all of Britain. But the screams were not those of ghosts. They were the pained and animalistic howls of a young werewolf undergoing his agonizing transformation. The sounds of destruction were the sounds of the wolf, trapped and alone, and raging against its confinement. The Ministry of Magic, aware of Lupin's situation, actively encouraged the haunted reputation. It was the perfect cover story, ensuring that no one would ever dare approach the house, protecting both Lupin's secret and the safety of the surrounding community. The Whomping Willow and the Shrieking Shack, two places on the Hogwarts grounds known for their danger and their darkness. Yet both, when you understand their true story, are symbols not of malice, but of protection, of friendship, and of the extraordinary lengths the castle and its headmaster would go to provide a safe haven for even its most vulnerable students. Secrets hidden within secrets. Kindness disguised as fear. Now, let your mind drift away from the wild and moonlit grounds, away from the thrashing willow and the silent, empty shack. Let us return once more inside the ancient stone walls of the castle itself. For the castle is far from empty, even in the dead of night. It is home not just to sleeping students and patrolling professors. It is home to its own unique population of permanent residents. Residents who drift through walls, who rattle chains, and who sometimes offer cryptic advice or play mischievous pranks. It is home to the Hogwarts ghosts. Imagine yourself walking the silent, moonlit corridors once more. The air is still and cool. Your footsteps echo softly, and then you see it, a shimmering, pearly white and semi-transparent figure drifting silently towards you. It passes effortlessly through a solid stone pillar, its form undisturbed. It is a ghost. Hogwarts is famously one of the most haunted places in Britain, but its ghosts are not, for the most part, frightening specters. They are echoes of the past, spirits of witches and wizards who lived and died within these walls, and whose strong connection to the castle, or perhaps some unresolved business, has kept them bound here for centuries. They are as much a part of the school's community as the living students. Each of the 4 houses has its own resident ghost, a spectral patron who embodies, in some strange and ethereal way, the virtues of their house. Perhaps the first ghost you meet is Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Porpington, known more affectionately, if slightly morbidly, as Nearly Headless Nick. He is the ghost of Gryffindor House. Imagine his form, clad in the fine, albeit slightly transparent, doublet and ruff of a Tudor nobleman. He wears a jaunty, plumed hat, and he floats with a cheerful, if somewhat pompous, air. His most striking feature, of course, is his head. It hangs precariously from his neck, attached by only a thin sliver of ghostly skin and sinew, the result of a terribly botched execution attempt centuries ago. Nick is generally friendly and helpful, always happy to offer directions or a bit of Gryffindor encouragement, though he does harbor a deep and amusing resentment about not being allowed to join the headless hunt due to his head's persistent, partial attachment. Hear his slightly ethereal, slightly aristocratic voice greeting you with a cheerful "Good evening," drifting through the darker, damper corridors of the dungeons. You might encounter a far more intimidating figure, the ghost of Slytherin House, the Bloody Baron. He is a tall and gaunt figure, his face fixed in a silent and terrifying stare. He wears ancient, spectral robes, and draped around him are heavy, ghostly chains that rattle softly as he moves, and covering his robes, staining them a ghostly, shimmering silver, are the spectral remnants of bloodstains. He rarely speaks. He simply drifts, a silent and menacing presence, his eyes fixed ahead. Most students, and even the other ghosts, are terrified of him. Only Peeves, the poltergeist, seems to truly fear him, often stopping his chaotic pranks instantly at the mere sight of the Baron drifting by. The source of his bloodstains and his silent torment is tied to another of the castle's spectral residents. For high in the airy towers of Ravenclaw, or perhaps drifting sadly through the library, you might encounter the Grey Lady. She is the ghost of Ravenclaw House. Imagine her form, a tall and beautiful and graceful lady, her long hair flowing around her like a silken veil. Her expression is one of profound and deep and perpetual melancholy. She rarely speaks, preferring her own quiet and solitary contemplation. She glides silently through the corridors, a figure of ethereal and sorrowful beauty, but hidden beneath her quiet sadness is a great secret. For the Grey Lady is none other than Helga Ravenclaw, the daughter of Rowena Ravenclaw herself. Consumed by jealousy of her mother's wisdom, Helena stole her mother's magical diadem, an artifact said to enhance the wearer's intelligence, and fled. Rowena, heartbroken and falling ill, sent a man who loved Helena to bring her back, the man who would become the Bloody Baron. He found Helena hiding in a forest in Albania, but when she refused to return, in a fit of rage, he murdered her. Consumed by remorse, he then took his own life with the same weapon. And so they returned to Hogwarts together, bound as ghosts, forever marked by their tragic, intertwined story. The silver bloodstains on the Baron are Helena's blood. His eternal silence is his penance. Her eternal melancholy is her regret. And finally, often found drifting cheerfully near the kitchens, or perhaps offering misguided advice to lost first years, is the ghost of Hufflepuff House, the Fat Friar. Picture him, a short and round and jolly-looking monk, his spectral robes slightly strained over his ample belly. His face is usually wreathed in a cheerful and welcoming smile. He is the most forgiving and friendly of all the house ghosts, always happy to help, always ready with a kind word, and particularly fond of attending the school feasts, even though he can no longer partake. He was executed in his lifetime, it is said, simply because his senior churchman grew suspicious of his ability to cure the pox by merely poking peasants with a stick, and his unfortunate habit of pulling rabbits out of the communion cup. His cheerful and accepting nature perfectly embodies the spirit of his house. These four are the main house ghosts, spectral representatives of the founders' legacies. But they are not the only non-corporeal residents. There is Moaning Myrtle, the ghost of a student who died tragically in the girls' bathroom on the second floor, killed by the gaze of Slytherin's basilisk decades ago. She haunts the U-bend of her toilet, prone to dramatic fits of wailing and flooding the bathroom with her ghostly tears. And then there is Peeves. It is important to remember, Peeves is not a ghost. He was never a living person. He is a poltergeist, a spirit of pure, unadulterated chaos. Imagine him, a small figure, often described as wearing a brightly colored bellboy's uniform, complete with a little spinning bow tie. He zips through the air, cackling maniacally, throwing inkwells, unscrewing chandeliers, stuffing keyholes with chewing gum, juggling torches, and generally causing as much mayhem and annoyance as possible. He delights in tormenting students, and especially the caretaker, Argus Filch. He obeys no one, except, perhaps, out of fear, the Bloody Baron, and occasionally, with great reluctance, Dumbledore himself. He is a force of pure anarchy, a constant and noisy and often infuriating but undeniably integral part of Hogwarts life. Hear his high-pitched, mocking laughter echoing down a distant corridor. And finally, we must not forget the portraits. For in Hogwarts, the portraits are not just static images. They are alive, imbued with the magic, the personality, and the memories of the witches and wizards they depict. Imagine walking down a corridor and seeing the figures in two adjacent portraits leaning out of their frames, engaged in a quiet and whispered conversation. Imagine nodding a polite "good morning" to a portrait of a medieval knight and having him nod curtly back. The magic is complex, tied to the skill of the painter and the willingness of the subject. A truly magical portrait can move, can speak, can think, can remember. They can even travel. Many portraits have multiple frames throughout the castle, or even in other magical locations, allowing their subjects to move between them, acting as messengers, or simply going for a visit. And some portraits have a duty. Think again of the fat lady guarding the entrance to Gryffindor Tower. She is not just a painting. She is a guardian. She demands the password, and she will not open unless it is given correctly, unless, perhaps, she has had a little too much festive wine. Her loyalty, her stubbornness, her occasional vanity, these are not just painted characteristics. They are her personality. The castle is teeming with these spectral and painted inhabitants. They are the living memory of Hogwarts. They are the echoes of its long and rich and sometimes tragic history. They drift through its walls. They hang upon its corridors. They watch the endless stream of students pass by, year after year, century after century. They are the silent, and sometimes not so silent, witnesses to the magic. And as you lie in your bed tonight, imagine the quiet rustle of a ghost drifting through your dormitory wall. Imagine the soft and distant snores emanating from a nearby portrait. Imagine the castle not empty, but filled with these quiet and watchful presences. Feel the deep, and comforting sense of history all around you. You are sleeping in a place that is not just stone and wood, but memory and magic and 1,000 years of stories. You are never truly alone in Hogwarts. And now it is time to rest. Let the thought of these gentle ghosts and living portraits be your quiet companions tonight. Let the deep and comforting silence of the sleeping castle cradle you. Sleep now. You are part of the story, and sweet dreams.